I'll turn it over to Morgan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Morgan. I use she, her pronouns. And apologizing in advance, my cat is like off the rails. So if you hear random background noises, that's what that is. I graduated from UMD in 2020. I was a crim and psych double major, and I am currently a 2L at Georgetown right here in DC. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Jake.
Hey everyone, I'm Jake Hirshman. From Pittsburgh, now living in Boston. Graduated from Maryland in 2020, same as Morgan. And I currently work at DraftKings as a senior business data analyst. I'll pass it on to Harshaan.
Hey everyone, I'm Harshaan. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a staff one consultant at Ernst & Young. I graduated last year, so class of 2021. And I was also like Alex, I was a business major. I was info systems and econ double major. So yeah.
Great, thank you all so much for that. So I guess let's start with your time at UMD. I think, Alex, you made a joke about reaching way back. I was also a 2010 grad, so I'm in it with you. I'm not of UNV, but same year. So I'm hoping that you can just start by talking a little bit about your involvements at UMD and thinking a little bit about which of those opportunities, whether that was research or student involvement opportunities, really helped you to learn the most or helped to set you up for your future success today. And anyone can jump in and start, and we'll just, whenever we're done talking about it.
I'm happy to start again. So while I was at Maryland, I was heavily involved with the Honors College. I was a co-founder of Honors Ambassadors, and so spent a lot of time working with that and getting that organization off the ground, and a lot of time at the open houses and working with prospective students. And so that played a huge role, in my future career, quite frankly, because starting something from scratch in that way and setting up operations has a lot of transferable skills into the business world. I also worked in the honors office for a period of time. I was a tour guide with Maryland Images, and I also worked with Maryland Athletics with their sports marketing group. So I think all those things, kind of a combination of talking to different people, selling how great the University of Maryland is and how great honors was, and then being really involved in kind of building that community was huge, and there's definitely a lot of transferable skills there.
I'll jump in next. So for me, I was actually an honors ambassador, so it's kind of wild to see that you co-founded it. So it's definitely still up and running. For me, I think some of the most impactful things that I was involved in on campus, I was a research assistant. Oh my goodness, my cat is really something. I was a research assistant, and then I was the undergraduate research manager for the identity management lab in the psychology department with Dr. Jen Wessel, who it was really a really great experience. I worked in the criminology advising office for 2-ish years, which is also really fun. I don't know if any of you are crim majors here, so you might have seen me while I was still on campus. But some other things I was in, I was vice president of membership for Alpha Lambda Delta, which is one of the honor societies on campus. I was in a bunch of fun clubs. I was in the Gamer Symphony Orchestra, which only plays video game music, which was super, super fun. But in terms of future skills, I think probably the most helpful thing for me was really being in a research lab and getting experience in that sense, just because, as a law student, it's a lot of dense reading and that sort of thing. So for me, it was really helpful just in terms of helping me to stay organized, help to manage people, and really get to hone those skills. But I was also involved in a lot of fun things on UMD's campus that just kind of helped me figure out like my own personal interests and things that helped me stay sane during law school. So can't emphasize doing things like that help in that sense too enough.
Yeah, I can tag in here. Similar to Morgan and Alex, not honors ambassador, but I was on the University Honors Advisory Board with both Morgan and Harshaan. And I was a general member, treasurer, and president at one point there. And also academically, I realized I'd never said, but I was a finance and information systems double major and statistics minor. So in the business school, I was also part of the quantitative finance fellows program. And I think from those two experiences, the best thing I got out of it was the connections I made both with the other people on the board and in the program, as well as getting to meet faculty around both the honors program and the business school. I got to know many professors as well as people in charge of operations in the honors program, which really helped steer, not really like my career, I guess, but it just gave me insight on just catching up with them, asking what they do, getting to learn from them, and kind of paved my way through the business and honors program there. Other than that, like Morgan said, finding things to keep you sane is also a great time. I was part of the Sports Business Society as well, and also part of a social fraternity where I was a philanthropy chair and the Terpathon chair. So it was fun to also give back to the community and just find other ways to occupy my time other than school while still getting my education done. But all around, just finding things to occupy your time and finding things you're passionate about, I think is the best way to go when looking for places to join when at school.
Yeah, I can hop in as well. So similar to like Jake said, all of them, I also was in a university honors student board, which I think now is branded as UHSB. I think before it was ASAB. So I played a big role in kind of reforming that group, playing a larger role with the Honors College administration. People like Dr. Stephen Blotty and Kaleigh also played a huge role in kind of creating a stronger relationship with the Honors College, working together to kind of get what the students want. When the big reforms came, I believe in 2020, we kind of played a role in communicating those changes, talking to students about what they liked, what they didn't like, and then recommunicating that to the Honors College administration. So I played a big role in that. I was, I believe, the vice president of strategy there, and I was with them until I graduated. Similarly, as I said, I was an information systems and economics major, so I did a lot of work with this club called IEFS, the International Economics and Finance Society. I was the vice president of finance with them, so I handled all of the budgeting there. Any trips or any field trips we did, I would kind of work to fund those. I handled dues, so I played a big role in talking with students, making sure that they were good on that, that they got everything they needed, and that they felt they were getting what they wanted out of the club. And aside from that, I was also a volunteer for the Help Center at the University of Maryland, which is a peer crisis and counseling intervention hotline. Really, what they do, they play a huge role in just a lot of mental health support for the campus community. They are open, I believe, 4 to 12 every single day, and they just take calls for people who need it. So I volunteered with them, took calls as well. Really rewarding experience. I think the biggest thing out of all those three is just the people you meet. You really get a lot of newer experiences, a lot of new perceptions, and what other people are going through, what other people do, and how you can kind of take that and mold it into a person that you want to be.
Great. So many of you are business majors, which is funny to me. For those of you who are here that are not business majors and are future alum, when we ask for volunteers, we need your help because there's something about these folks that make them want to come back and chat with us, which is fantastic. So we'll try to make sure that the questions are relevant for everybody. But I really appreciate all of your sharing of experience. I think it's amazing to hear all of your involvement in honors as well as across campus. So UH has changed a bit since most of your time in the program. The folks who are here today are many of them are about to graduate with their honors college citation or to get their honors college citation after being on campus for about 2 years. So the program is now a 2-year program instead of what it used to be as a 4-year program. But all folks here are still members of UH, even after their citation, and members of the Honors College. So I'm interested to hear about, I know a few of you mentioned being or getting involved with the Honors College, and I think most of that was later in your time at UMD. Can you talk a little bit more about how the Honors College really impacted your experience or impacted the way that you thought about your future?
Yeah, I can start here, I think. So when I guess I was in the Honors College 4 years ago-ish when we did just seminars. You could choose whichever ones you want to do that sounded cool to you if you were able to get in the class. A lot of them, they range from a ton of different topics, from like study-specific topics to anything like music composition, and it was really all over the place. You could align any of your interests there, go completely haywire away from what you're studying. But I think the two most important things that I got out of the Honors College side from joining the advisory board and learning from the faculty, like I mentioned before, is the Living Learning Program, just meeting other university honors students who are studying all different realms at the university. I was best friends with computer science, mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering majors, while I was one of the few business students on my floor. So it was really cool to see their perspective of education, what they were studying, what they wanted to do in their future. It actually kind of changed my career path. I started as just a finance major, and I just saw work that my peers were doing in computer science and other stuff like that, and really thought coding seemed awesome. And I picked up information systems as a second major just because of it, and that's what I am doing now. So I think just like learning from your peers, everyone is so intelligent and passionate about what they're doing, and no one really knows what they want to do just getting into college. So I think it's cool to just pave your way from learning from others. And along with that, similar thing with choosing the seminars that I did. I chose one called New Media Frontiers and one about immigration, which are just not in the realms of my interests immediately, but they just sounded cool, and the professors had high prestige and were like published journalists and other cool stuff. So just going to those classes, learning something that could kind of take my mind off my normal academic life was really interesting, and a lot of them ended up being fun, and also just getting to, again, building those connections with the faculty. That's one thing that's different about the honors program, I think. It's very similar to higher up courses in your actual focus major, I believe, where it's smaller classes, so you can actually get to build that relationship with the faculty and other students in the class as well, and learn from them there. So I think just the opportunities of hearing from different parts of the world from what you're focused on every day was the best part I got out of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think a big part for me was a lot of the networking aspect. One of the professors I had for an honors seminar was honors 299F. I know the class system is different now, but his name was Beza Gohari. He was actually he was a professor, an adjunct professor, but he actually got me my first internship. And that kind of spiraled into this butterfly effect that led me to where I am now. So really just talking with the professors had a huge impact on me, getting to figure out a little bit more about what I want to do, what I actually enjoyed, because kind of like what Jake said, I went into college really not knowing what I wanted to do. I just had a vague idea, but talking with other people in the honors college, professors, and kind of building upon those relationships really gives you that advantage that a lot of other students may not have. And it's really on like a big part of that experience to just build upon that, to work with that. And I think continually like striving to do more and build those connections can make a huge difference in the long run. I know it did for me. I know a lot of people in the honors college who empathize with that. And I think that can make a huge difference moving forward, so long as you work with that. Also, I see Dr. Vladi just put in, he is still teaching for UH. So if you get the chance to take a class with him, tell him you know Harshaan. I bet he'll get a good kick out of it. I still talk with him from time to time.
And I'll just echo what both of these guys have said in terms of using that as an opportunity to explore. I started at Maryland as an undecided major, and so took my first 2 years and really in honors through the seminars, but through just meeting other people to understand what are these different majors, what's everybody working on, and what's interesting. But the second thing I'll say is, the Honors College gives you some unique opportunities to take different leadership roles. And now as someone who's, hiring people, right? You see these things on a resume that's like, hey, I was able to lead this thing, or I, took on this initiative and did those kinds of things. And those, that stands out because, I think as former campus leaders, we all recognize the amount of work and thing that goes into that. And honors is a it's a safe space within a much larger university where you can take that opportunity and get to know the administration and bring an idea like, hey, we want to do this thing, right? We want to have the ice cream social. We want to do these different programs, et cetera, and working with the folks like Dr. Dula and everyone, you build those relationships that do last quite a while. I still keep in touch with Tracy and those folks. So, yeah.
Yeah, to echo what everybody else has said, I feel like for me, the people were definitely the best part of my UH and my honors experience. Like I'm still friends with people that I met, freshman year, like first semester, first week of classes. Like I still have friends that I follow up with and keep in contact with. And for me, that has just really made all the difference, because UMD is a huge school. So finding your people, finding your group is just super helpful. But also being able to take advantage of the really amazing classes and professors, like everybody else has said. I knew going in that I knew going in I was going to law school after this. So for me, being in honors and being in UH just gave me a chance to explore other interests. Like I took a really cool class about creative writing with Dean, who's not Dean, who's just Dean. And that was a really, really interesting class. I took a class about political theater my junior or senior year. I forget which one. But it was just like classes like that are just super interesting. And for me, like it was just another way to really just add to my undergrad experience. And yeah, I feel like everyone else has really covered what I wanted to say. But also definitely recommend talking to Dr. Dula. She's great, super friendly, very approachable, and just a really great person to know. But yeah, being in UH, the people, the professors, just an all around really great experience.
Great, thank you all. We have our first submitted question. So many of you mentioned building relationships with faculty and staff as being really important for you. What's some advice that you have about, I've heard that potentially get involved in leadership roles, but beyond that, sort of what's some advice that you have about how to start building those connections with faculty and staff? Remember that the folks that are here also, their first year was remote. For the most part, for many of them. So now they're sort of looking at their second 2 years and looking to build those relationships. So what advice do you have for them on that?
I'll hop in. I did my first year of law school completely remote, so I definitely relate to the people who were remote for the first year. And I think for me, something that was really helpful was just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. The professors are here. They want you to do well. They want you to succeed. And they always have so much advice, whether that's, about academics, career path, or even stuff like, outside of that. And just not being afraid to, whether that's like hanging out a few minutes after a class to ask them a question or shooting them an email. Like everyone at UMD, especially in BSOS, like they're just all so helpful and they really want you to do well and succeed. So I feel like once you get over that hump of like feeling awkward about reaching out to them, it's really not as scary as it seems, but you just have to put yourself out there first.
I think the other thing is now that things are opening up is just along those lines is show up, right? Show up to the event, show up to those things. Honors puts on a ton of programming, and then that's when you start to see the familiar faces and see everybody. So half of the battle is just showing up.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go.
So my bad. I was just going to say, I think taking that first step is huge in that regard. If you just show like a little bit of effort to faculty, staff, even friends that you make, they can go a long way, and just kind of establishing that connection. And kind of like to what Alex said, showing up is a huge part of that. Things are happening now. Everyone's kind of opening up, and this is the opportunities that you all can build, and you can start connecting people on any level, really. And I think that's super important for anyone's career growth, just taking that first step, starting to just talk to someone about their interests, your interests. You never know if you have something in common. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you don't, it's fine. But there could be that one person, couple people that you have a few things in common, you have a few things you can work on, and they might go to you first just because you reached out. So the little things matter in that regard. And I think it's just important to kind of keep doing that, keep up that effort, and being consistent on that as well.
That's a fantastic point in terms of making your interests known, especially to faculty. Funny story, I had been, hanging around honors and was talking with Dr. Dole and said, hey, this is the kind of stuff I'm interested in. And she's like, well, we've got this group coming to campus. They're called Deloitte. And they're going to be hosting a seminar downstairs, or not a seminar, like an info session. We need someone from honors to kind of let them into the building, swipe them into the building, set up the equipment or whatever, and it's kind of based on what you're interested in. Would you want to go? or help set up. So I did. And I was the point of contact, and ended up submitting a resume and ended up getting hired for my first job at Deloitte, which was the springboard for my career. So that's a fantastic point, right? Make your interests known, because, the staff and everyone around you, is looking out for you. And that's where those connections happen.
Yeah, going off that kind of, for like career trajectory specific ones, I think once you guys are all freshman and sophomore, I believe, from what I understand, which is mainly gen ed classes with hundreds of people, and also added on, it's over Zoom at this point. So I can understand the difficulties there in getting to know faculty or what else. But I think what really helped me as I got further on through my education was really utilizing the opportunities that the professors give you, including office hours. I went to a ton, even if I just had the most basic question. Just showing up there, having that one-on-one time with my professors really helped me get to know them and build that initial relationship there. As well as just, you can kind of, I don't know, for the business school, it was easy for me to tell at least which professors were more keen to just like career advice, getting to know the students more. But finding like that one connection that you can just go up either through email or go up in person and just ask about what they did for their career, advice on where you want to move forward, what you could do as a student, so on. I think just going out there, like everyone said, putting yourself out there. I think office hours are a great opportunity for that, but there's all sorts of ways that you can just connect with your faculty and peers there.
Thank you all. I have a question. I'm going to pick on Morgan for a minute if you're ready. So we have a question specifically about applying for law school, but I was thinking, I know we have some other folks here that are interested in grad school in general. So could you just talk a little bit about sort of how you sort of thought about your last 2 years in that preparation for that application?
Yeah, so I can speak about law school, but also about psych, like grad school programs, because I was a psych major and we talked a lot about grad school too, if anybody has questions about that. But at least for me, I'm one of the oddballs who knew going in that I wanted to go to law school. So for me, like once junior year hit, senior year hit, I really started thinking about like what schools I wanted to apply to, looking into what the pre-law office had going on. Greg was just a really super helpful resource for me, which I hope he's still there because he's super great. So for any of you who have questions, I would definitely recommend checking out the pre-law website, which I think it's just prelaw.umd.edu. But feel free to correct me if I have the address wrong. But freshman and sophomore year, you're really just focusing on undergrad, taking classes that interest you, doing well in those classes, that sort of thing. When it comes to start applying, and this is just for grad school generally, junior and senior year, you really want to start thinking about, do you want to go straight through? Do you want to take a break? Like, what is your timeline going to look like? Because that's, of course, going to impact pretty much everything. For me, I knew I wanted to go straight through. So I started studying for my LSAT over the summer before my senior year. I took it twice during my fall semester. I had all my application stuff done by the end of the semester so that spring semester, I could just, try to enjoy the process as much as I could in terms of waiting to hear back from schools. And of course, things got really messy because I'm spring 2020. So COVID happened in March. So everything shut down. So my application process is a little bit different than the people applying now. But in terms of once you get to like junior, senior year, again, like your timeline really affects a lot of things. And this goes for grad school too, because if you want to go straight through, you think about when are you going to take the LSAT, when are you going to take the GRE, when are you going to have time to sit down and work on your personal statement, get letters of recommendation, that sort of thing. And especially if you're interested in grad school and for something that's along the social sciences, you're going to want to think about research experience as well. And just generally, getting leadership experience and internships and things like that to kind of prepare yourself. And also, so you have stuff to put on your resume for schools that you're interested in. But long story long, it really just comes down to when you think you might want to go. Like if you think you want to go straight through, that's going to speed things up versus if you're going to plan to take a gap year or two, which most people take a gap year. I think the average age for law school is like 25 or 26. So most people take a year or two off to work. So whatever you end up deciding, just once you figure out your timeline, a lot of things will fall into place. And I think the pre-law website has kind of like a general timeline of things to focus on and what year to start thinking about things, which for me was really helpful. So I definitely recommend starting there if you're thinking about going to law school and trying to figure out like what your next steps would be.
Thanks, Morgan. Great. All right, so let's talk about what happened after you graduate. So can you talk just a little bit generally about your post-UMD experience? So what was that transition like out of the institution and into either your job or school?
I think a lot of people could describe it as a bit daunting at first, just because it's a whole new experience. From high school to college, you're thinking, oh, it's school to school. It's not terribly different. Obviously, it's a whole different ballpark from school to work, but you adjust really quickly is the one thing I can say. And, obviously it depends on where you work, but from the time that you stop going to school and start going to work, you really start doing the things that you enjoy. I can speak only for myself when I say at my job, I enjoy what I'm doing and I work with people that also enjoy what they're doing and want to help me learn. And in a supportive environment like that, I find it hard not to enjoy what I do. So I guess the biggest thing in that is just finding the right group of people for you when whatever you're transitioning to, whether it be work or school, just finding that group of people that are going to support you and who can help you learn and continue growing. Again, it may be scary at first. I know when I first graduated, I wasn't sure what the work life would be like. Obviously, I'd done internships, but that's different from a full-time job. So you adjust really quickly and you kind of get into the groove of things. You start developing a routine. You start doing work that you see as productive, and it really just becomes part of your life. And I can only speak for myself, but I've really enjoyed my work life. I've enjoyed the schedule that I've built, and I adjusted pretty quickly.
Yeah, I can piggyback off of Harshaan there. Like you said, it's completely daunting and understandably at first. And also for me, it was weird because, like Morgan said, we had the Zoom period right as we were ending our senior year of college. Weren't 100% adjusted there. It was more like, oh, it's our last semester. We're starting on Zoom, just get our work done and get through it. But going into a full-time job in a whole new city while starting online was definitely daunting and something you have to get adjusted to. But like Harshaan said, it's not as scary as you think. Everyone, I'm sure at most companies at this time, but with mine as well, were very helpful, insightful, wanting to make you feel comfortable. And it was a pretty easy transition, honestly, as well. Was kind of thrown right into the fire work-wise, but Maryland really prepared me in ways that not just like technical-wise of what I was actually conducting at work, but just the confidence to present in front of others, how to talk to others professionally and in the workplace, and just build those relationships there. I think those are not, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's just not harped on enough as part of education, just the experience you get making relationships with people through whatever you're doing in your classwork, whether it's collaboration or presenting and stuff like that. So even though it seems daunting at first, it really is a pretty smooth transition, I'm sure, in most workplaces.
Giant group project. It's the way I think about it. There's classwork. You got to work with a bunch of folks, and sometimes you got to coordinate and get the presentation done.
Yeah, to echo what Harshaan and Jake and Alex too, I feel like, transitioning from school to more school there's certain things that are always going to be the same in terms of like, how to go to class, how to buy books, how to manage like that sort of thing. But it is like, you figure out how to adult, like at least for me, because I went straight through. Obviously I lived away from home before, but it was different in terms of when I was signing a lease for a real apartment and I moved to DC, which isn't that far, but still it was like, my first real apartment and the first time I was really like paying bills and buying my own groceries and that sort of thing. So for me, definitely budgeting was like a very key skill to learn how to do early on, especially with managing like student loans and that sort of thing. But then of course there are things that are always the same. And law school is still school. So I feel like, I knew how to do that part for the most part, even though definitely was an adjustment period in terms of figuring out how to do law school specifically. But once you get into the routine of things, then it kind of just becomes your new normal, and you figure out your own schedule and your own routine and how to, balance work and social life and family time and all of that sort of stuff. But there's still the group project aspect of things when you're studying with classmates and working on study guides and that sort of thing once you start getting closer to finals. But for the most part, yeah, I felt like decently prepared. But it wasn't as scary as it seems once you get used to it and make your own routine.
Sounds like routines are important, to summarize. So I got a question. I think after Alex, you were talking about sort of meeting someone sort of serendipitously on campus that helped you get your first job. I think people hear a lot about the importance of networking and relationship building, and that keeps coming up as a theme here too. But do you have any general advice for that type of networking? Alex, you sort of stumbled in that situation, but I'm sure all of you have had opportunities to network. And so what advice do you have for folks on that?
I think, networking doesn't have to be forced. It can be organic. And I do think from that organic perspective, right, it's just about letting folks know your interests, right? Like saying, hey, hey, I'm interested in marketing. I do this on campus. And, I think folks are just human beings are naturally inclined to try and connect the dots, right? How can I help you? And whether that's with, your peers, whether that's with faculty, or whether that's someone you happen to be seated next to at a table at some event, right? Trying to put those things out there for someone to, latch onto and make that common connection, like Harshaan was talking about, is key. And, if you can find that point in common, even if you are at a formal networking event, for instance, you're talking to someone and, use Maryland as a connection, right? Hey, I went to Maryland. And, oh yeah, me too, right? And now it's that much easier with LinkedIn. When I was there, I think LinkedIn had just kind of started becoming popular, right? And so now you can really easily find out some things about people and work that into the conversation as well without not being creepy. So it's about finding those points of connection and just kind of leveraging that human nature aspect.
Yeah, jumping on that, I think Alex's point of just being human, I think a lot of people perceive networking as they don't perceive it as this, but a lot of it's what opportunity can I get from this? What can this person get from me? What's the end goal here? I think just starting, I think the best way to look at it is networking is learning, in my opinion. Like for my instance, when I was looking for jobs, I was very much struggling. My senior year, I applied to a ton of places. But my the job I landed came from networking through a common connection where I just reached out, asked about the job, what the company values are, stuff along those lines, and just what he does. It was an old family friend. And along with that, other people I reached out to were the ones I got the most out of, where it was more just learning about their experiences, how they ended up in their career paths. And even if it's not career related, just I think learning from people just and making just a genuine connection rather than, oh, what can I get out of this is the best advice I have and what I've got the most out of when I was networking.
Yeah, I would also add, just don't forget to follow up with people, because, it's really easy to just take somebody's card and be like, oh, I'll email them later or I'll reach out whenever. No, you have to follow up, because you never know what opportunities people have, what connections you can make with people. So, if you get somebody's information, follow up before you forget. I know personally I'm terrible with remembering to do things unless I write them down or immediately do it. So you can't use opportunities that you're given if you don't reach out and follow up. So definitely recommend doing that.
That's an outstanding point. And some companies, right, that's actually a formal part of the recruiting process, where behind the scenes, right, it's funny when you leave and then you see behind the scenes how hiring happens, right? It's like, did this person follow up? Right? It goes noticed. And so, make those connections, but yeah, do your due diligence. That's a great point.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point in just not only networking, just any environment where you're trying to work, or whether it be school, job, whatever. I think another big part of networking, which I wouldn't say it's necessarily part of formal networking, is just asking questions. I think a big part of the things that I did when I met people, not only within UH, but even outside of UH, within University of Maryland, outside of that, whatever it may be, if I was confused, I always kind of sought someone out to ask a question. And when you do that, you kind of find someone who is an expert in one area or another, or you may get referred to someone who's an expert in one area or another. And through that, you can kind of start connecting, or at least get your name and face known to other people. So that could be a good starting point if you don't know where to start. I think Jake, Alex, and Morgan also covered a big part of the after that piece, where you follow up, you start talking about common interests, you start kind of sitting down with them, reaching out to them. Those are also big parts. But starting can be difficult, and it can be scary at the same time. I know when I was a freshman, sophomore, it was scary to go up to people and just talk to them. You feel awkward, you feel weird. It's totally normal. But asking questions can be a huge way to kind of just break the ice, especially if you're genuinely confused. Because there are a lot of times I had no idea what I was doing at any networking event. So just talking to people or asking questions just to get yourself known can be a huge way to network, or it could just be a huge way to get information, if nothing else. The way that I see it, there's not much downside to that. So there's only good that can come as a result.
All right, thanks everybody. So tell me about one of your favorite UH memories. There was a question from the audience. That's why it wasn't in your prep sheet. Sorry about it.
It's a big one. Probably, I don't know if this is cliche. I know one of the first questions that was asked was like the people you meet, like the friends that I've made. I feel like those connections that I've made have kind of stuck around for a while. Like tomorrow, I'm going to see some of my friends in UH and probably go down to just hang out to Arlington. And I think those memories that I've made with those people have kind of gone a long way. And I think those have shaped me into the person I am now. I wouldn't say it's one single memory. I would just say it's like accumulation of those memories. I know that's very cliche, but that's like the number one thing that comes to mind. I just think of the people that I've met, the friendships, the memories I've made along the way, and just building off of those, still connecting with them and being friends with them even after college. I think that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, for me, same vibe as like not one specific memory, but I just have made like so many really great memories with people that I met. But when I used to work as a community assistant in Hagerstown for like my spring semester of freshman year to like, I think through my sophomore year. But me and my friends used to hang out with one of our other friends who worked at the front desk, and he worked like midnight to 3 a.m. So we would all like hang out at the desk for hours when we definitely should have been asleep and or doing schoolwork. But just hanging out or going into the fishbowl and taking advantage of the AC when it got really, really hot in Hagerstown. Because nothing bonds people more than trying not to overheat.
Mine's not really I have a specific moment that's not really like sentimental, but it's more me and my friends from freshman year. UH, we were on 2 floors. We made a intramural flag football team, and the first 3 years we came so close to just like we had a great record, but just sucked in the playoffs. And our junior year, we made a playoff run, and in the semifinals, we just had an unreal game, and just it went to overtime, and I made an incredible catch. So that was just, and we just had it was in overtime, like 4th down. So sorry, not to brag a little bit there, but just the memories of playing flag football and make it to the finals finally after so many years of being good, but just losing every single time was a lot of fun with that team.
I'll just give a quick one because I think there's still a picture of it probably somewhere on the website. There was the end of year honors cookout on the patio of Anne Arundel, and we'd kind of gotten all the food together. It was a bonding moment in terms of coordinating this event. And then it's time to grill, And a life lesson in here is greasy burgers will light on fire. And the honors grill went up, and but you close the lid, the smoke goes out, but the memories last a lifetime. And my buddy that was on the in honors, he was in Gemstone with me, still reminds me of that to this day and tells that story. So hopefully you all have gotten a new grill since then, but good times.
I'm actually not sure if we have a grill anymore. It's something that I'm going to ask Stephen to look into in the future.
Dean probably knows where it's buried.
I appreciate those memories, and I love that they have the thing in common that of the ways that you were involved on campus, right? So Jake, your intramural opportunities, Morgan, it's funny, I was on a panel, a similar panel that was talking about getting involved in making friends. And I'll never forget, someone said the best way if you're feeling like you're not meeting people on campus is get a job, because you'll spend a ton of time with those people and get to meet them and get to know them. So I love that all of your favorite stories really came from sort of those average things, right? Except for the fire, that was kind of, but generally sort of your involvement and engagement in the Honors College is sort of what led to that too, I guess. So that's pretty great. Okay, trying to keep an eye on the time, hoping, I know folks have things to get to after this. So I'm going to hurry it along by asking you to talk just a little bit about something that you learned at UMD or in honors, or just generally that has helped you most in your current role. So what is that thing that you think you use the most or that has helped you the most?
I think it's about communication. Don't underestimate the value of a well-written email, right? And that's something that, I think goes overlooked oftentimes, right? Especially in a fast-paced environment. But if you can craft a message, right? And we spend a lot of time, with honors ambassadors, right? Having to communicate to, folks to either recruit people onto the, to be an honors ambassador or to coordinate events, or in group projects, right? To coordinate amongst people. And back to the whole theme of, work is a big group project, and that communication is such an important part of it. And so can you send that, well-written, logically structured communication to be able to drive an initiative forward is really essential.
I'd say for me, the one thing that I learned that has helped me the most is just being flexible, adventurous, taking risks, and everything along those lines. Just anything that's thrown at you, just take it in and be able to make something new out of it. For me, my junior year, I always had the idea that I was going to go abroad and have the best time in Spain or wherever I wanted to go. I quickly found out that I took way too many gen eds to start, and they didn't offer the classes I wanted to, and I couldn't go abroad. And I was just stuck back at school with not following the plan that I wanted to academically. I was still just a finance major at that point, and so that really led me to taking risks, looking at new opportunities. That's the point where I talked to some faculty and some people who I knew in other majors, and my friends in computer science, and also found like passion projects on my own. So really right after that, I just realized I had to grind, figure out what I wanted to do because it wasn't in my plans. And I declared my double major. I joined the honors advisory board that next semester. And I also worked on a passion project where I love sports. I was working on a college basketball predictive model. And that actually is one of the things that they said that turned up and got me was that they loved in my interview at my job. So just even if something doesn't go your way, figuring out that next step, how you can adapt to whatever situation, and trying out new things that you wouldn't otherwise, because instead of being miles away in Europe, I was just figuring out my life in College Park, and it all ended up working out. So just being adaptable, I think, is the best thing that I learned.
Yeah, I don't have like too much in terms of like skills, I guess. The one thing that I would say, and I think this might be a theme among everyone from what everyone said, it's not really the stuff you learn in the classroom necessarily that kind of propels you into who you're going to be or what you're going to learn. Obviously, that stuff's important. It's good for your growth. It's good for just getting your degree. But I think outside of the classroom and the things you do experience-wise kind of make that bigger difference in terms of what you learn. I kind of made that mistake in college where I harped a lot on grades. I wanted to make sure that I got good grades. But, now that I'm out of college, I realize that the stuff that I'm doing at my job, it really looks more at the stuff that I actually learned outside of the classroom. Like Alex said, the value in writing a good email, communication, working with a team, presentable deliverables, things like that can make a huge difference. I think it's the little things that really show up to people, and the experiences you have with those people. So I guess having that ability to just get along with someone and be able to foster a good conversation that when people talk to you, they think, wow, I could really work with this person. I could really talk with this person and I'm comfortable. I think that type of skill goes a long way. I think, it's not necessarily something you could just learn. It's not like coding or anything like that, but it can go a long way in just, showing people that you have a lot of value, you have a lot of worth, you have stuff you can bring to the table that can benefit, not just for jobs, for school, just anything in life.
Yeah, I would say take advantage of the opportunities at UMD. I know it feels like a pretty obvious thing to say because there's so much that you can do on campus, but I knew plenty of people who were just kind of there on campus, like they just came to the occasional thing, but they really just kind of went to class and went back to their dorm and that was it. Put yourself out there. Like there's so many things that UMD has, whether that's, school related or just things that you might enjoy that aren't necessarily related to, getting a good grade or finding a job later. And, as important as obviously both of those things are, I feel like it is also really important to remember that there's other interests and things that you can get involved in that are not just for the sake of building a resume and thinking like so far down the road of what are you going to do post grad. And College Park has so many things to offer. I know we all took advantage of a bunch of things on campus from what I've heard from everybody. And even now, like in law school, there are plenty of things that I'm involved in that aren't necessarily like gonna help me like get a job, but there's things that I enjoy doing on campus and things that I enjoy spending my time on. So there are plenty of things that you can do like that in College Park and on campus. So don't be afraid to look into those kinds of opportunities, and you never know where it'll lead you.
It helps broaden your horizons and be able to connect with people in general, right? In one story tells, going out and doing something fun that might push you out of your comfort zone. I think, they used to do a Holi celebration, right, on the mall, right, with the colors. And, I was working with a colleague and, we were talking about it and they were surprised, like, oh, you know about Holi. I'm like, yeah, like if celebrated and participate. It broadens your horizons, right? It makes you more well-rounded. And I think that what's offered on campus and the people you meet are so diverse and so exceptional, right? And that that you bring with you for the rest of your life, those experiences, and it helps just foster those human connections down the line.
That's great advice. Thank you. So this is another curveball question coming out of participants, so get ready. But do you have any advice, now that you are all experts in this, of course, for managing stress or balancing multiple priorities? So what have you learned as far as finding that balance that you'd like to share with others?
I think it's really important, especially outside of college, because in college, you kind of get that time with your friends to just wind down and relax. I think it's so important to set aside time for that. That's something that, like in the corporate space, they'll talk about a lot, but won't really follow through on all the time. So I think it's important for just you as a person to set aside time, maybe, a couple hours a day, just say, I'm going to do something that I enjoy. It could be anything. It could be reading a book, watching YouTube or TikTok. I know, like, I'll spend like 2 hours at night just scrolling through TikTok just to kind of wind down. And it's important to have that. It's important not to just be working or stressing all the time. It's easy to fall into that trap. I did it in college a lot too. But I think, yeah, just setting aside time for yourself, doing the things you enjoy can make a huge difference along the road. And if you need more time, more than a couple hours, do that. I think it's important not to sacrifice self-care. That can be harder to do as you grow up, but it becomes more important as you keep working.
Yeah, absolutely second that. Especially as a law student, it's very easy to make law school your entire life. It's easy to even make like undergrad your entire life, depending on all the things that you're involved in on campus and your classes. And, you know, like I was one of those people who was doing everything on campus, and burnout is super, super real. So I very much want to echo that self-care is really important, and, you know, find things that you enjoy. For me, like I also spend way too much time on TikTok, but I love to read. I'm super into Animal Crossing and The Sims, and like, you know, you just find things that really help you de-stress, whether that's taking time like to unplug, to exercise, spend time with your family and your friends, like whatever that thing is for you, definitely grab it and hold on to it, because it's really, really vital in making sure that you don't burn out, or if you do get really stressed out and burnt out, that you have something to help you like de-stress and relax. For me, especially, I try to have at least one day a week where I do absolutely nothing, like school, class, like anything related. I just sit around, me and my cat, when she's not like off the walls, and we just, you know, we relax. So, you know, whatever works in your schedule, like if you have time to do that, definitely recommend it, because then it allows me to take a chance to refresh, and then I can come back to my schoolwork and whatever other obligations I have, and really be able to focus and get what I need to get done without freaking out.
Yeah, not to just repeat what everyone said, but I think just remembering that nothing's more important, that like no schoolwork, nothing is more important than just your mental well-being. I think for me, like Morgan said, finding something that, and Harshaan said also, just finding something that kind of takes your mind off everything. For me, I either like go outside, shoot around a basketball, go for a walk around the city by me, go to the gym, read a book, play video games, whatever it is. Doing something like that for 1 hour and then coming back to your work with a clear mind is way more beneficial than chugging through work for 2 hours straight while stressed. And just finding time to make sure you're prioritizing yourself over whatever else you're doing is definitely the most important there, I think.
And sorry, my power went out for a hot second, but I'm back. And just to echo all of that, you know, set those boundaries. But in addition, right, like as a manager now of a large team, right, like a manager is never going to you know, ding you for just raising your hand and having that communication about like, hey, you know, I've got a lot going on, or, you know, I need some time, or so, you know, have that open line of communication with your manager or whomever, right? Because that's important too.
Thank you all so much. Okay, so this is going to be our last question. It's sort of a wrap-up question. So do you have any advice to students on how to make the most, in particular, out of their last 2 years here at UMD, for folks that have 2 more to go?
I don't mean to be repetitive, but the last 2 years are going to be full of a lot of things. I know for me, it was full of internship applications, job applications, networking on the side, schoolwork, and it can be a lot to balance. I think it's important to understand that, you know, at the end of the day, you're only in college once, and it's important, you know, to make the most of that time. It's important to do the things that you enjoy. One thing that actually Jake said that I found really cool is he spent a lot of time on passion projects. You know, work doesn't always have to just be draining or boring. It could be something you enjoy doing. And I think it's important to look at the things that you enjoy doing, try and make the most of that time. Obviously, you know, school is important. I'm not saying don't study or anything like that. But at the same time, you want to make time for yourself. You want to make time for the things you enjoy. So don't forget about that, because it's really easy to forget about that, and it's really easy to just get sucked up in like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. But you're all young, you know, you should have fun. You should focus on the things you enjoy. as much as you can with that healthy balance.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo what Harshaan said. I feel like I said before, it's very easy to get sucked into like everything that you have to do. And oh my God, I have to do all this reading for class, write this paper, or apply for this internship, or it's very easy to get sucked into that. But I feel like it's really important to actually take time and enjoy like this chapter of your life because it goes by very quickly. Definitely, I'm sure the people on the call can agree with me about how quickly college goes by. And then of course the time after you graduate. So, take time to enjoy the chapter of your life that you're in. Do the things that look fun. Of course, make sure that you get your schoolwork done and all that important stuff. But make sure you take time to do the things that you want to do and try new things and get all the fun experiences in that you can, because college really is like a unique chapter in a lot of people's lives. I know it definitely was for me. So, don't be afraid to take advantage of like the area that you're in and the chapter of your life that you're in, and really just take the time to enjoy your experience.
Yeah, I think Morgan and Harshaan hit it straight on the head. I feel like obviously you want to prioritize your schoolwork and everything like that, but it absolutely flies by, and you want to I feel like you'd rather last with the memories than the extra stress and work that you put in on something you already could complete to your best effort anyway. I feel like I think my best memories from my junior and senior year were all hanging with my friends, going to sporting events, doing homework together on my porch, or even when you're 21, we did homework in the Seastone loft, and just doing stuff that isn't too intense, not focus on your work, but don't focus too much. That's the only thing that's occupying your mind. Just have fun with it. I feel like that's the best advice you could get with 2 years left, and it just absolutely flies by. So make the most of it.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. And with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you for being here, for all of our panelists. Your wisdom and time is very much appreciated. And for everybody else, have a great rest of your night. Good luck with this sort of next round of exams that's coming up for many of you. So thank you for being with us tonight. Good luck with those exams, and I hope we can all finish up the semester strong. Bye, everyone. Good night.
Good luck, everyone.
Bye. Good luck, guys.
Take care, all.